I spent 10 hours finding the craziest pit stop moments in Formula 1 history. From multiple cars lighting on fire to a pit crew putting on a tire the wrong way. But first, let's start with the pit stop that lit Kimi Raikkonen's car on fire. After Kimi Raikkonen and Heikki Kovalainen got involved in different accidents in the race's first lap, they both pulled into the pit lane to get their cars fixed up. And Heikki sped off once he thought his team was done. But this was a huge mistake. You see, the pit crew hadn't disconnected his fuel line yet. What happened next shocked everyone as gas sprayed all over the pit lane and directly onto Kimi's car, who had been following right behind him. And in classic Kimi style, he just shrugged it off and continued driving. You gotta respect the dedication. And I found an even weirder pit stop here. You see, during the 2007 Canadian Grand Prix, Team Super Agari's pit crew was deeply immersed watching the race when all of a sudden, the cameras swung towards them. Seeing their faces on TV, the pit crew quickly realized something was off. It turns out they had been so distracted by the race that they didn't even notice their driver had made a surprise pit stop after running over a groundhog and damaging his car's front wing. Because of this, the driver lost out on a potential podium finish. Now, let's take crazy pit stops to a whole nother level, like the time McLaren completely embarrassed themselves with one of the dumbest pit stops I've ever seen. One of McLaren's mechanics was struggling to put the rear tire on Lando Norris's car, and after a couple seconds of struggle, the mechanic realized he had put the tire on the wrong way. Now, these are just 3 of the craziest pit stops I found, and for the last one, I reveal the pit stop that caused this to happen.
Other mechanics, and the 3-wheeled Williams stops in the pit lane.
Bro, where is his tire? Now, Formula 1 definitely didn't let us down because in the same year as McLaren's failed pit stop, Antonio Giovinazzi experienced his own embarrassing pit stop. During the Spanish Grand Prix, Antonio pit stopped during a safety car to get his used tires changed. But after Antonio pulled in, the pit crew ran off to grab a completely different set of tires. It turns out that one of the mechanics discovered the tire he was holding had a puncture, which meant the entire set needed to be changed, causing Antonio to lose over 45 seconds during a single pit stop. But at least a bad pit stop didn't cause him to lose a race win, because that's exactly what happened to Daniel Ricciardo.
Daniel Ricciardo, the race leader, Lewis Hamilton making his way into the swimming pool chicane. Now they haven't got the tyres ready. The tyres aren't ready. Ricciardo is sat there waiting. Did he make the call? Did the team make the call? Whoever made the call, the tyres weren't ready.
After finally getting his wheels changed while leaving the pit lane, this would happen.
Here comes the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton takes the lead.
Dang, Daniel just seems to always get unlucky. First the slow pit stop, and now the timing with Lewis? Okay, let's talk about this crazy pit stop crash. While Adrian Sutil was pit stopping, Robert Kubica was driving down the pit lane to reach his pit crew, when all of a sudden, Adrian crashed into Robert as he drove back into the pit lane, causing both drivers to forfeit the race. But the pit stops get even crazier because a failed pit stop cost Felipe Massa a world championship. During the Singapore Grand Prix, a safety car caused the pit lane to close, just as most of the drivers needed to refuel. So during the next lap of the race, Felipe and most of the other drivers pulled into the pit lane for refueling. But in the chaos, a Ferrari mechanic changed the course of history. For some reason, the mechanic gave Felipe the green light while his car was still refueling, which caused this iconic moment.
Due to the chaotic pit lane, the normally automated system was manually operated. It was a costly mistake.
And while Felipe was able to continue the race, he only managed to pass a couple of cars and finish 13th. And this lost him crucial points in the World Championship race with Lewis Hamilton, which caused him to lose the championship by less than 1 point. Now, it's one thing to lose, but it's a completely other thing to be the cause of that loss. See, Kimi Raikkonen and Robert Kubica were stopped for a red light at the end of the pit lane, when out of nowhere, Lewis Hamilton came charging down the pit lane, causing this infamous scene.
Oh, look at the pit lane's closed and Hamilton has hit the back of Kimi Raikkonen. Presumably the red light was on, it's green now, but Hamilton has smashed into the back of Raikkonen.
My dude came in like a derailed train, taking out everything in his path. And while that pit lane went on to cause a little too much drama, it's nothing compared to the pit stop that ruined Lewis's chances of winning the World Championship title in his first year in Formula 1. See, it had been raining all day, and the pit lane hadn't dried as quickly as the racetrack. So as Lewis was coming into the pit lane, his car lost traction and slid off the road into the gravel. And with the wheels losing traction, the car would stall a couple moments later. This cost Lewis a rookie World World Championship title, as Kimi Raikkonen went on to win the race and the title, beating Lewis by a single point. But at least Lewis didn't get screwed over by his own pit crew, because Eddie Irvine's pit crew cost him a race win. See, while pit stopping for dry tires, a mix-up with Eddie's teammate caused this to happen.
Both slicks and dries ready for it.
Right rear.
Not ready on the left rear. There's no tyre.
Of course, this was a Ferrari failed pit stop. By the time they managed to attach the last tire, he had already stayed out for an entire 48 seconds, which ruined his race and title hopes, as he was 2 points short of a title at the end of the season. But if you think 48 seconds is slow, I found maybe the slowest pit stop in Formula 1 history. See, after pulling in for a routine pit stop, Esteban Turo had to watch in horror as his pit crew struggled to attach the fuel line to his car. At a certain point, one mechanic was literally smacking the crap out of the fuel line, hoping that would do the trick. And even after they figured out the fuel problem, Esteban had to wait even longer as the mechanics found the missing front tire and stuck it on the car. Okay, we're getting into the top 5, so we've got to take these weird moments to the next level. And we gotta start with the time Eddie Irvine's car lit on fire. See, Eddie had just finished his pit stop, but when he sped off to rejoin the race, his car burst into flames. I don't know how common this is because it doesn't look like Eddie freaked out at all. And kudos to the pit crew because within seconds they had the fire extinguishers out and the flames were gone in no time. Now, how bad of a driver do you have to be to hit the pit wall when coming into the pit lane? Listen, David Coulthard is a good driver, but he must have been having a bad day. Just look at this.
Into the pit lane. Oh, my goodness. David Coulthard smashes himself out of the Australian. I have never seen that before.
But Jos Verstappen actually almost died. His car lit on fire so violently that the cameras recording them malfunctioned.
It's a bit from Verstappen. Oh, and fuel. That's the first time we've had a fuel splash. Oh, my goodness me.
Dang, the flames were so fierce that Verstappen hopped out of the car with burn marks all over him. At number 2, we have the time Nigel Mansell left his pit stop with only 3 wheels on his car. Normally, when you exit a pit stop, you have 4 tires. I mean, that's kind of obvious. But Nigel Mansell literally came out with only 3. I guess he thought the tires were properly attached, and that's why he zoomed off. But seconds later, the cameras show a tire detaching and rolling off on its own little adventure. The team struggled to put the tire back on, but it was too late. Nigel was disqualified from the race lead. But maybe he zoomed off a little early because he got flashbacks to his crazy pit stop in 1989. See, Nigel was driving through the pit lane when he mistakenly drove past his pit crew, causing this funny moment to happen.
In which case the Italian will be in the lead.
Yes, Jerry Bootson has put up a new fast start to the race on fresh tyres, and there's confusion now. Mansell's missed his pit. This is a disaster for Nigel Mansell.
Honestly, I've got no words for this. Nigel was getting paid millions of dollars to do that? He must have been distracted thinking of all the expensive items he could buy after the race. If that sounds interesting, click this video right here. Stupidly expensive things Formula 1 drivers own.